Welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're going to be going over the newest changes to depth charges. These particular depth charge changes are going to be on the ship-based depth charges, not the aerial depth charges. Pretty much throughout all of these depth charge changes is a flat-out buff to all the ships on this list. They're either going to get more depth charges or they get increased damage for their depth charges. So this is a huge plus to any of you ship players that enjoy playing those ships. But they have the surface depth charges, so they're not as good. Now they'll do a little bit better against submarines, of course. So huge plus. Finally, the Alknik actually gets its depth charges. Finally. That makes me so happy. Finally, that thing's been needing it forever. So let's get started. Pretty much on the pan-European, all of the DDs, the LE, all the DDs are getting a flat-out buff to depth charges. There's really no nerfs here at all. They all are getting either increased depth charge laying, or they're getting both to where they get damage and more depth charges per charge. And this is really, really useful for the fact that a lot of the times with the surface, whenever I play a surface DD, say like a Z42 or something, I'll run out of depth charges while I'm trying to actually kill the sub, and then he just gets away because you run out of depth charges. Well, now they're helping subsidize that by giving you more depth charges. So let's go. Very happy about that. Very good to hear. So that is for the pan-European, just pretty much a simple look over all of the DDs and the premiums. Whichever ships have surface depth charge, pretty much the deck-based depth charges are getting a flat-out buff for the pan-Europeans. Very good to hear. Unfortunately, the Småland isn't getting a buff here. Only the Östergötland is. The Småland and the Holland are not getting increased surface ASW. It's probably due to their launchers that are on them. That's probably the main reason why. Because they have the... What is the surface charges called? Like the Hogs? I think it's like a Hogs is what they're called. Hogs something. If someone in the comments could let me know, I'd greatly appreciate it. That's probably the reason why they didn't increase the charges for those. But the Gdansk is getting more damage to the depth charges. Same with the Labrosse. Very good to hear. Very happy to see that. Now for the Germans, it's going from the tech tree line. The T-22 is getting increased damage. Ernest is getting increased damage. The Karl von getting increased damage. This ship, I don't even know why this ship exists. Z31, it gets increased damage. The Munchkin is getting 4 to 8. Gustav is going from 22 to 2400. And the Z35 is getting a massive depth charge increase from 4 to 12. Very much needed for a tier 8. Going from 4 to 12 is a massive change. And the damage is also increased. That's a big change for the Z35. I'm really good to hear that. Now, all of the mains are getting depth charge increase from 22 to 2400. Very nice. And the Wiesbaden is getting a 2 to 6 and 2200 to 2400. Very useful for it. Very nice. Getting more depth charges. Very much needed for all of these ships. It looks like all of the German premium DDs, the Z44s, the F-6, are all getting a flat-out buff to their damage and the number of charges. That is a huge plus for all of us surface ship players. I'm very much happy for that. Now, the Elbing is the depth charge raise for 22 to 2400. So it increases damage as well. Very nice. So flat out for all of the German DDs and cruisers are getting a flat out, as long as they have the surface-based ASW, get increased damage and depth charges to their ships. Now we're going on to the pan-European. The DDs are also getting a increase as well. It gets from 4 to 8 and a 1700 to 2100. Going from 4 to 8, that's pretty much doubles its depth charges. So very good. Now the Chongqing cruiser is getting a nerf to its depth charges from 9 to 7, with an increase from 1700 to 2100. So for a tier 5, I'm guessing tier 9 was a little bit too much. So having 7 is the right number, which is understandable for a tier 5. The fusion at tier 6 is getting an increase from 6 to 10 and an increase from 1700 to 2100. Very good for the fusion. The Anshin and the Huang are all getting buffs as well with 6 to 10. 17 is pretty much all the depth charges are going to 2100 for the Pan-Asian Asia cruisers and DDs. And it looks like the tech tree line for the Pan-Asia is going from, they're all getting a slight decrease while getting a slight increase in their damage. Now the Gaja Mana is getting an 8 to 12, 17 to 21. Shupyeon is getting the same thing. The His Yang had originally 18 and now is going down to 14. But with that, it does get the damage increase, so it weighs out the negative. The Luangs are getting, and the Ship Smash are getting their increases as well, with the increased depth charges here. The Silly Wongi is going from 10 to 14 with a 1721. Very nice. Harbin is going from 17 to 21. Chonbu 12 to 14. Pretty much all of these are getting increased. The Lucian is going at 12 to 18. So the thing we were just talking about earlier about running out of depth charges. Well, there you go. You got more of them. You got 18 of them now. Let's go. That's amazing. I'm super excited to see that. Depth charges increased 17 to 21. The Junon is 17 to 21. And the Coming is getting a 12 to 16 increase. Very nice. Very happy to see that. So far, some really good changes to the depth charges. Very good to hear. I'm very happy to see this. Now, the Pavoski is getting a 4 to 6 increase. The Grem is getting a 4 to 6. And they're finally adding depth charges to the Altnik. It's been one of the few tier 5 DDs without an actual depth charges. Very much needed. It's finally, like, I don't understand how a tier 5 DD doesn't have depth charges. Well, there you go. And now it does, so thank God. The number of depth charges go from 4 to 6, maximum 2400. Number of charges 2 with a 40-second reload. Pretty much a typical DD for tier 5. Makes me happy to see this. It's been needed forever at this point. I love playing the War Canoe so much, and not having depth charges has been such a pain, but now we get it. Makes me happy. So the Kavoski is getting a 4 to 8 increase and is getting a slight damage nerf to the depth charges. It's understandable for the tier 5, as we saw earlier with the, as we saw earlier at the tier 5 for the Pan-Asian line, they decreased it while increasing the damage. So I can understand they're doing the same thing over here. So over here, they increase the damage and then they increase the charges while decreasing the damage is what they did. So they pretty much did a little bit opposite of what the Pan-Asia did. Because Pan-Asia decreased their charges on some of these ships and then increased the damage. So they did the opposite. The Mermans is getting 6 charges in total from the 4. But Kanya is doing 4 to 6. Binion is going from 6 to 8 with a slight slight damage nerf. Ganemi is getting a 6 to 8. Mensa 6 to 10. Leningrad is going from 4 to 10. That's massive. That's a 250% increase. Wow, that's massive. Tashkent at 39 is going from 6 to 8 and getting an additional damage 24 to 2700. That's pretty big too. Shores is going 6 to 8. They're doing a slight nerf to the damage. The Kiev is going 8 to 12. Envoy 10 to 12. Chappie is going 6 to 8 with the 24 to 2000. So pretty much how it's been doing for the rest of the Russian lines, what they've been doing. The Udaloy is going from 9 to 12 and the Kaba is doing 10 to 12. So pretty much just a flat out buff to these. Now looking at the Dutch depth charges, the Celebes is going from 4 to 6. Pretty much all of these cruisers are going higher. They're getting increased charges except for the Harlem. It's going from 8 to 4, but it's getting a damage increase from 2,000 to 5,000. Jesus. That is a massive depth charge buff to the Harlem. Good Lord, man. That is huge. Yeah, I would rather have 4 that do 5,000 than 8 that do 2,000. Yeah, that will definitely nuke some subs for sure. Now, the D7 is getting an increase as well, 6 to 10, and the Trump with a massive 6 to 16. Wow. and a massive amount of depth charges for the Trump. Like, the Trump before kind of suffered against subs because of how few it had. I remember playing it a lot and not being able to do much. Now, that's incredible. Now, for the final few, we have the Alvaro doing 10 to 12, a flat-out buff. The Regulus going from 8 to 10, and the Greyu is doing 6 to 10. Now, there are no Japanese ships that are on this list that got increased. There's no American, no... Well, there was just an Italian. But yeah, this was only for... It seems like more of the newer lines or some of the German or some of the older lines have kind of been misbalanced over time. So it's nice to see that they went through and did some very much needed depth charge changes to the lines that needed. It was very, very much needed. I'm also very glad that they're giving more buffs to ships and making it where all ships have, you know, ASW or depth charges to be able to hit the enemy, you know, enemy sub. It's very nice to see them doing that. So all very good changes here. Very much excited. If you guys have any questions or you want to, or leave in the comments what you guys think of this dev blog for the 13.3 testing. Let me know what you guys think. Hopefully it turns out well and this keeps up. But yeah, thank you guys again for watching, and I'll talk to you all later.